This is the official podcast of Swedish Experts, an auto service company that combines an engineering-driven approach, deep diagnostics, and a modern perspective on vehicle technology. Here we break down the key transport news from Dubai and the UAE, analyze infrastructure developments, and discuss how they impact drivers, service providers, and the future of urban mobility. Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of sources in front of us today. They're all detailing this next wave of major transport laws and infrastructure changes that are rolling out right now.
They are, and they're really geared toward relieving congestion in 2026.
Exactly. If 2025 was about just dealing with that explosive growth, these updates feel much more coordinated, much more about systemic efficiency.
That's absolutely right. And for you, the listener who relies on this, the mission today is crucial. We're looking beyond just a single fine or a rule change. We want to understand the overarching strategy here.
A strategy that seems to span Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Ajman.
All of them. And these aren't minor adjustments. They signal a deep commitment to managing urban mobility using some pretty sophisticated technology and policy nudges.
It feels like a shift from static rules to these dynamic systems. And these changes, they touch every facet of road use, affecting the daily motorist, the commercial fleet manager,
The school transit operator, even families just using community facilities. It's really comprehensive.
So we're going to connect the dots between all these seemingly separate actions.
Precisely. They are using every tool available from, pricing mechanisms to physical road segregation and, I think most interestingly, mandated vehicle compliance tech.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting where most commuters feel it first. The wallet. Let's look at the revised DARB toll system in Abu Dhabi. Big changes there from September 1st, 2025.
The timing is the first thing to note. The evening tariff, which, used to be from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, it's now been dramatically extended. It starts 2 hours earlier, running from 3 p.m. all the way to 7 p.m. The morning hours are still the same, though.
Wow, that's a huge adjustment. So starting at 3 p.m., that suddenly catches a lot of people who were previously exempt.
Oh, completely. Early shift finishers, parents doing school pickups, people running errands before that traditional evening rush.
So what was the thinking there?
The intent is pretty clear: to redistribute traffic. By spreading the charge over a longer period, they're hoping to thin out that absolute peak hour, giving people an incentive to leave either much earlier or, much later.
But the real game changer in the sources, and I think the most impactful policy shift, is the complete removal of the daily and monthly toll caps.
Yes.
This is a massive financial blow for high-frequency commuters.
It is, and it speaks directly to this policy of a hard behavioral nudge. Before, you knew you'd hit that cap maybe after 4 trips a day, and the rest were essentially free.
Right. You could sort of game the system.
You could, but now, without those caps, the financial disincentive is continuous. It's immediate for every single trip you take during those hours.
So this is less about revenue and more about forcing drivers to actually change their behavior, find other routes, use public transport, maybe even shift their work schedules.
That's the idea. And it's important to note, the sources are clear that existing exemptions are still protected.
So who does that cover?
That's for people of determination, certain low-income families, senior citizens, and retirees. The state is making sure vulnerable populations aren't penalized by this new model.
Okay, so moving from pricing to proactive traffic management. Let's talk about the new variable speed limit system on Abu Dhabi's Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Road. This sounds like pure tech intervention.
It is, and what's fascinating here is how the tech proactively manages speed. It's shifting away from static limits completely.
Right.
It uses a network of sensors, traffic cameras, all feeding real-time data to a central system, and electronic signs along the road adjust the speed limit dynamically.
So if there's an accident or just heavy congestion,
The speed limit drops immediately, same for work zones or even bad weather.
that brings up a critical question, though. If the system relies on sensors, what happens if one of them fails? Does it default to the fastest speed or the safest?
Good question. The system is designed with safety redundancy. So if communication is lost or a key sensor fails, the default action is usually to revert to a predefined, conservative, lower speed limit for that zone.
So it defaults to safe.
Exactly. The whole principle is to eliminate the driver's subjective judgment and replace it with a systematic, optimized speed based on what's actually happening on the road.
It really turns the road into a responsive digital thing.
It does.
That's a powerful idea. Now let's transition into how various Emirates are enforcing traffic segregation. It's not just about speed anymore, it's about separating different vehicle classes entirely.
And this segmentation is central to managing risk and congestion, especially with vulnerable vehicles like motorcycles.
Let's start with delivery riders in Dubai. Effective November 1st, 2025, there's a clear ban on them using high-speed lanes.
A major safety measure. And the rules are incredibly detailed based on the road width. It's key for listeners to visualize this.
So what are the specifics?
On the really wide roads, 5 or more lanes, delivery bikes are banned from the 2 lanes on the far left.
Okay.
If the road has 3 or 4 lanes, they just have to stay out of the single leftmost fast lane, and it's only on 2-lane roads where they can use either side freely.
That level of detail shows they're really serious about enforcement. And our sources confirm it's being reinforced visually with signs on the big signboards showing the restricted lanes.
And we see this philosophy extending beyond Dubai. Sharjah is following suit with its own dedicated lanes, also starting November 1st.
And what are they doing?
In Sharjah, the far-right lane is now reserved for heavy vehicles and buses, so they're creating a kind of slow, heavy-load corridor.
What about motorbikes there? Are they facing similar restrictions?
They are. Again, it's the same logic. Keep bikes out of the express traffic. They're banned from the far-left fast lanes. On a 4-lane road, they can use the 2 rightmost lanes.
And crucially, the sources emphasize that compliance in Sharjah is monitored 247.
Yes, using radars and smart camera systems.
Okay, monitoring dedicated lanes 247 sounds like a huge undertaking. How are they managing that continuous surveillance?
Well, it implies a really robust, centralized system that automates detection. These aren't police officers on the side of the road.
It's all automated.
Right. The smart cameras can identify the vehicle class, is it a truck, is it a motorbike, and instantly cross-reference its location in a restricted lane. It's that continuous digital surveillance that allows for this.
Which brings us back to our main theme, automated system compliance.
Exactly.
Now, switching to the largest vehicles, Abu Dhabi implemented a permanent truck ban on 2 major arteries, Sheikh Maktoum bin Rashid Road, the E11, and Al Raha Beach Road, the E10.
This is a textbook example of traffic optimization. The E11 is one of the UAE's busiest corridor.
And the rationale is twofold, right? Protect the infrastructure and reduce accidents.
Precisely. Protect the roads and bridges from the wear and tear of heavy loads and dramatically reduce accident risk for all the cars on those high-speed roads.
So where are all these trucks being rerouted?
They're being directed onto alternative industrial corridor roads, specifically Al Faisal Shuaib Road, the E75, and Al Hafar. These roads are actually designed to handle those continuous heavy loads.
And we should also mention the specific peak hour restrictions on Al Rada Road, the E30, in Musafa.
Absolutely. So that's large vehicle segregation. But segregation isn't just about size, it's also about behavior, which brings us to these new solid lane rules in Dubai.
Right, those continuous white lines that mean no passing.
They've appeared on major routes like Etihad Road, the airport tunnel, E311, E611.
And these are regulatory markings. You just cannot cross them.
Correct. Whether you're trying to overtake, switch lanes to exit, or even make a turn, crossing that line is prohibited. It's designed to stop those dangerous last-second lane switches.
And the financial implication is immediate and fixed. It's a DH400 fine.
It is. So let's transition into what we're calling the urban commuter checklist. This is about fares, parking, and some really cutting-edge enforcement.
Okay, let's tackle the Dubai taxi fare increase first. If you book through a smart app, the minimum fare went up from DH12 to DH13. But the real complexity is in the new peak hour charges.
It is complex because it varies by day and time. So let's just try to synthesize the core structure. For Monday to Thursday, the main peaks are 8 a.m. to just before 10 a.m. and then 4 p.m. to just before 8 p.m.
And what happens during those peaks?
The core flagfall is DH5, but during those peak times, there's an additional fixed DH7.50 peak hour surcharge.
Okay, so let's use a practical example. If I book a taxi at 8:05 a.m. on a Tuesday, what's my starting cost before the meter even really kicks in?
Your initial charge is DH12.50. That's the DH5 flagfall plus that DH7.50 surcharge. It's a clear incentive to start your commute before 8 a.m.
And I notice Friday has an extended evening peak.
It does, running all the way until 9:59 p.m. to capture that weekend rush hour traffic. The whole structure is designed to manage demand by making peak travel much more expensive.
Right, shifting demand to public transit or off-peak hours. Now let's look at enforcement tech, this partnership between Dubai Police and Parkin PJSC.
This is a fantastic example of system integration. Parkin manages all the paid public parking, right?
Yes.
By connecting the police's traffic systems directly with Parkin's smart platforms, they've created this seamless net.
Meaning,
The moment a vehicle with outstanding fines or a seizure order parks in a parking facility, it's immediately tracked and identified by the system.
so parking your car could literally trigger instant legal action.
It could. It leverages that huge network of parking payments as a constant surveillance tool.
Sticking with parking, we also saw the controversial implementation of 24-hour paid parking at mosques in Dubai.
This applies 7 days a week, but the policy does try to balance community access. Parking is free for 1 hour during the 5 designated prayer times each day.
But outside of that window, it's all paid tariffs.
All paid. And there are 2 different zone tariffs.
Okay.
Most spaces are Zone M, standard, which is DH4 per hour. But high-demand areas could be Zone MP, premium, that's DH4 off-peak, but it goes up to DH6 per hour during peak periods.
So the key takeaway for residents is that these are no longer just free communal parking spots.
Not outside of those specific prayer windows, no.
And finally, in this segment, we have to talk about Ajman's first-in-the-country initiative. Smart speed limiters in taxis and limousines.
This is truly groundbreaking. The tech uses GPS mapping and real-time location data to talk to the car's operating system.
And it automatically regulates the speed.
It does. The driver physically cannot exceed the legal speed limit for that exact location.
What precedent does this set? I mean, it completely removes driver choice when it comes to speeding.
It sets the precedent that compliance can be entirely mandated by the vehicle itself. It shifts responsibility for speed limits away from human judgment and onto an automated system. This has massive implications for the future.
That connects beautifully to our final segment, where we look at the bigger picture, the long-term infrastructure and community focus.
Absolutely. The sources show that alongside these immediate policies, there's massive forward-looking investment happening.
We're talking about the planned construction of a 4th federal highway, a huge 120-kilometer, 12-lane stretch, plus widening the current 3 major highways.
And within Dubai, they're focusing on the parking issue in congested areas. We're seeing 5 new multi-story car parks being built in places like downtown, Deira, and Al Riga.
And we shouldn't forget the more nuanced community measures, like the new parking signs in Dubai that prioritize worshippers at mosques.
And that important safety rule from Abu Dhabi, requiring an adult to accompany kids under 15 on school transport. That's a crucial policy shift.
And finally, support for micromobility. These electric bike battery swapping stations popping up across Dubai.
Supporting that last mile of delivery is essential to keep smaller vehicles moving efficiently and safely.
So when you put it all together, what does this all mean? The UAE is deploying this full coordinated toolkit. You have pricing, segregation, technology, infrastructure, all to manage this relentless growth.
And if we connect it all back, the common thread across every rule we discussed, from the DARB cap removal to the Ajman speed limiters, is the strategic shift. They are moving away from relying on drivers to manually obey signs.
And shifting responsibility to these centralized automated systems that proactively manage everything.
Exactly. That transition from static rules where the driver decides to dynamic compliance where the system decides, that is the most profound change here.
Which raises a really important question for you, the listener.
It does. If transportation infrastructure is becoming this smart and this automated, how will the fundamental culture of driving change when the vehicle itself regulates compliance? Will human judgment be completely minimized in favor of systematic flow? And what does that mean for how we interact with our cars in the future?
A truly profound thought to end on. It really makes you think about the future role of the driver in urban mobility. Thank you for joining us. This was the Swedish Experts Podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss upcoming deep dives covering the latest transport news from Dubai and the UAE. See you in the next deep dive.